Hello and welcome to episode 278 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is Jordan Willis.
My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest joining on tonight's episode of the podcast. We got the wonderful Stephen Swirsky returning to the show. How's it going, Stephen?
Hello. It's going okay, actually. It's just
okay. We like that. That's
Honesty.
good.
Yeah. Brother, that's better than doing bad, you know?
Yeah, we chalk that up as a win in this house.
I'll take the dubs where I can get it. Well, Stephen is joining us today. We're going to talk about the future of NSO, what we'd like to see, what we think will happen on the Switch, Super Switch. I'm so sorry, I almost said Switch 2, guys. What will happen on the Super Switch and all that. But before we get into that, as always, we're going to go into the news. We got some emulators getting shut down and Nintendo cracking down a little bit harder on emulation content. Ubisoft news, maybe going private. We got all the Legends of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom news, sales numbers, reviews, etc., etc. We talked about it last week. But before we get into all of that, how's everyone doing?
Pretty good. Yeah. Doing all right. I've kind of begun now my period of non-work. I'm now kind of trying to figure out what to do with my days, which so far has just been video games and just fill it with video games. So that's
the way to do it.
Pretty nice so far. It was not a bad day. I got a driver's license renewed. What else? I saw Joker 2. I actually kind of liked Joker 2. I know most people really hate that movie, but I actually thought it was pretty good. Hopefully I'll be talking about that more later. And then, just kind of the calm before the storm. Stephen, you're also working on this Tomb Raider show that's coming out this Thursday. So we've got a premiere for that. And that's really exciting. Other than that, just kind of chill and play video games.
I'm doing really good. Also, I am working a little bit more for the plant nursery I've been working part-time for. And it's a good situation. And I'm also just working hard on trying to update the Monochrome Heights demo for Steam Next Fest, which starts next week. Got a lot of little things I'm trying to squeeze in before that starts, but feeling really good about where it's at in general. I got to go to a small convention this past weekend at Schreiner University in Kerrville, Texas, and show off this new version of the demo, which was nice and useful because I got to watch people play it. And it was a very small convention, but it was overall a really good experience. And that was cool too. So
I've actually incidentally been to that campus and it's just very peaceful when I was walking around it.
It's
cool.
nice.
Yeah, I went to PolaCon. It's a instant film convention that's up in Denton, Texas every year. This was the 9th year. They now have one in Brooklyn and then also one in the Bay Area. Pretty cool, man. That was really inspiring just to see a lot of other film freaks, photography freaks, of people like-minded, because sometimes in community in Austin, it's a lot more digital focused, or the film photography community is a little bit more disparate. So just having a specific event for us all to meet up and just share our collective passion. And they also had some cool workshops and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. And this past weekend, I went to Houston with my partner. She wanted to see the band Seether. So she went to go watch Seether. I did not want to pay for a ticket to Seether, unfortunately. But anyway, she had a good time. We hung out in Houston, did some stuff out there. That was cool. Saw a really sick
the Seether shade on this podcast.
Yeah.
Honestly, way better than a lot of the bands from that time, and are still consistent. We listened to their newest record, and I was like, this is honestly not that bad, and sounds kind of like what they're calling new gaze, which is a heavier shoegaze offshoot that the kids are into these days. And I'm like, this is kind of the exact same thing. Anyway, but other than that, I'm getting ready to hang some photography over at Epoch Village in Austin. So today I ordered a bunch of mats for frames that I already have and just getting all that put together. So I'm just trying to keep myself busy by also being unemployed, but also trying to find creative avenues to make money and make that a more sustainable thing on the side for myself. So, but yeah, Stephen, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Like I mentioned, just kind of hanging in there. I don't know, things have been kind of weird just in general. just life. And then work stuff has been a little turbulent, just with, as I'm sure y'all are aware, just like the creative industry at large is just kind of going through a rough patch right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
yeah, brother.
it's yeah, y'all are aware. It's just hard to deal with that mentally. But yeah, just trying to make it through. I actually also saw a concert. I saw Lawrence, if anyone knows who that is.
I like Lawrence.
Yeah, they were sick. Really, really great show. But yeah, saw Joker and Megalopolis back to back, so that was fun.
Dude, flop bottom is here, baby. We're here.
Hey, like it was so cool because like I don't know why I made this decision, but I decided to watch Megalopolis 9:05 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And it was just me and one other person. It was like an old lady, and it was really chill. It was a really interesting experience. Like I kind of wish I could have seen it like with a packed theater just to compare how it was like by myself versus like a really big theater. I don't know, that would have been interesting, but
I'll quickly give my impression of that. It was basically like everybody wanted to like laugh at the movie, but was trying to be polite. So it was just this really like tense, awkward environment with the crowded theater. I'll say that.
Gotcha. Yeah. I didn't know if like people would just be like laughing the whole time or what, but yeah.
Can do some shout outs now. So last week we did an episode about The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I got a few comments over on our YouTube just quickly here. Karuseta said they absolutely love Echoes of Wisdom. If they could just get their son to stop using the Switch to play Minecraft. And then we got a few comments from Big Die about a couple different things we talked about, including Miyamoto and sort of the future of Nintendo with people kind of aging out and the older generation moving on, which I think is an interesting topic unto itself, as well as their thoughts on Echoes of Wisdom. Then we got a comment from Richard Sheehan, which was specifically about when we kind of talked about Virtual Boy emulation, and they said that they think enough time has passed since its release and failure that it's no longer an embarrassment for Nintendo. And,
I agree.
Yeah, maybe that will help push them along into actually sharing that content. And then over on our Discord, a lot of discussion about Zelda from, just quickly, Hans Gauger, Cool Uncle Vince, AV, Typos, all kind of talking about our experiences with the new Zelda game. So if you too want to be shouted out, then you can leave a comment on our YouTube or on any of the social media platforms, or you can join the Discord and talk about the podcast there. We also appreciate it if you head over to Apple or someplace else like that and review the podcast. We have a Patreon if you want to support the podcast financially and become a patron. That's always helpful for us. And then we have a video version on YouTube. If you're not watching the video version, well, why don't you try it out and head over to YouTube and hit like and subscribe.
It's just a click away. It's just over there on the YouTube.
All right, we're going to get to our news and rumors for the week. We're going to start off with talking about emulation a little bit. Like Jordan said, the remaining big Switch emulator called Ryujinx has been shut down. And this wasn't legal action, at least not publicly. Apparently, it seems as if probably Nintendo or somebody there contacted one of the main developers of the project and I offered them a deal or threatened them, or we don't know what, but in private had some communications, and essentially they pulled it.
They offered them an agreement to stop working on the project, whatever that could be. Yeah. An offer they couldn't refuse is what it sounds like. Yeah.
Whether that was carrot or stick, we don't know. But essentially that means that Switch emulation current support is pretty much gone, right?
Yeah, the GitHub pages have been taken down. I'm not sure if the Discord has been closed or if it's going to close. But yeah, like you said, Ryujinx is one of the two remaining after Yuzu was shut down. I think Nintendo really hates seeing Switch games, specifically Zelda games, being emulated on Steam decks before they come out, right? I think just like it was like a week or two ago before Echoes of Wisdom came out, somebody was posting playing Echoes of Wisdom on the Steam Deck or on the ROG Ally or one of these handheld PCs playing on Ryujinx, and then right away Nintendo hits them up, and here we are, right? So official support is now gone. I mean, these things are still very easy to find. Emulation is still not illegal, but it just kind of is getting to a point where Nintendo flexes and people don't even want to be bothered or won't have the money to be able to support themselves in court over something that Nintendo may or may not be able to find a loophole in actually litigating on and actually getting an agreement, or excuse me, a settlement or something out of this person. So, but you guys have any thoughts on this?
Stop emulating games before they come out. That's obviously one of the things that's triggering this, and it's kind of understandable. Like stop that.
It feels like too, like there's going to be a smaller set of people doing that, so that kind of puts a bigger target on your back. Like, especially when like if you're posting stuff about it, like I feel like not that many people are going to be emulating a game that's like not out yet, so that like immediately draws attention to something that could have been like a little bit more under the radar.
Or stop sharing it. Yeah, if you do it.
I mean, either way, again, it's like this is them putting up a bit of a roadblock, but it's not like people don't have off-road vehicles. You know what I mean? So it's like people who use the internet and are savvy are going to find ways. They're just kind of doing what they can to stop this being such an upfront thing in people's faces, which I guess this next story is also really about.
Well, maybe we should move on to that then, because it does kind of relate. And that is that a YouTube channel, Retro Game Core, received some copyright strikes, right, from Nintendo for some of their content, which feels weird because their content is really just showing off emulation handhelds and talking about them, right? And that's not necessarily... Like it's not I don't know, maybe some of their content goes into how to get emulators on, and it seems like, and that sort of thing, but they're receiving strikes when they kind of show Nintendo stuff. And it's made the creator of this channel say that they have to kind of go in and blur all the Nintendo content in their old videos and change kind of how they move forward, because they're afraid, kind of like you were talking about the last thing, afraid that, they think they're within their rights to do what they're doing, but they don't want the risk of a lawsuit and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And with 2 strikes already, a third strike basically is the permanent deletion of your channel. That's how the YouTube copyright strike rules work. So that you can't risk your entire livelihood. This is Russ's full-time job, is running this YouTube channel, right? And yeah, it sucks, man. I mean, like the video that got the first strike, I think, was the MiG Switch, the like kind of card dumper that was being sold for a while. And then the second one was one showing Wii U games being emulated, which is silly, again, because there is no legal way to buy new Wii U games. So how else are you supposed to play Wii U games unless you go to a friend's house who has a Wii U and get their digital games or whatever, right? So it very much does feel like, even though, like you were saying, Patrick, it's like Nintendo just wants you not to like emulate games before they come out. Like, that seems to not be a problem here either, right? Yeah. It's like, these are old games that, like, I don't know. I don't like that they're really beefing this up right now at this point, like in the Switch's life and in the company's life, as they're moving towards, as we'll be talking about later in this episode, more of a digital future and more of content tied to your account and all this kind of stuff. It feels like they're kind of bolstering up to fight against the kind of resurgence in emulation that's been happening a lot recently. And again, as we've talked about in some previous episodes as well, I'm just worried this is a slippery slope that's going to have major impacts, not just on Nintendo games and how they're emulated, but potentially set new precedents in the legal system for emulation as a whole. So the whole thing kind of just makes me a little nervous, right? This is definitely Nintendo using their power for bad.
Yeah.
Feels petty too. It's like, oh, the Wii didn't sell well, whatever. Now they're like, any way you can access these games and play these games, you're just kind of trying to shut it down. But I don't know, man. Also, it's like, offer better options for me to be able to play these games, or offer better emulation style handhelds. Like if Nintendo was to ever put one of those out, I'd day one purchase one of those things, like instead of just having to have, just having to go through these hoops and be able to access all these games. It's like, there's how much lost media are we going to have when we have a digital only future and there's no emulation? Like it's so much content's just going to be washed from the internet. So I, like David's saying, like slippery slope, man, like preservation is so important, more now than ever, I feel like.
We can move along to talk about Ubisoft for a little bit here. Apparently the news is that Ubisoft has had a really bad year. There's been some news that the sales for Star Wars Outlaws weren't very good. as well as the delay of the new Assassin's Creed Shadows game. On top of all that, just sort of the financial numbers and stuff. It sounds like Ubisoft is doing poorly, and there's some reports going around that maybe they will be going private. That is, like, somebody might be purchasing them, or I don't know, just sort of a reshuffling. We'll see. But what have you all heard, or what do you think about this? Is this expected?
Ubisoft's actually going to break into 3 separate companies. There's going to be the Assassin's Creed and Friends company.
Oh my God.
I don't know, man. I feel like Ubisoft has been digging this hole for like a decade, where gamers constantly tell them what they don't like about their games, and then they keep making the exact same games over and over and over again. And it's like they're just looking at EA trying to do the Madden model, and it like just doesn't work for a game like Assassin's Creed. Like, they have to reinvent, and they've done a little bit, but I don't know, man. I feel like the writing's been on the wall for at least 5 years, and controversies aside, the games speak for themselves, you know? So it is unfortunate. I don't want them to be bought out by someone else, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, the games aren't good. The games aren't good.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I hear Star Wars Outlaws, like, it is a good game, if not formulaic, like a lot of their stuff. But I do know the game was riddled with issues and bugs upon release. So you have to give the gamers a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for being like, fuck this, especially as we've talked about many times on this show. Ubisoft does deep discounts on their games really soon after launch. So, they keep crying about, like, it's only sold 1 million copies, which for a Star Wars game is very low, and yeah, I mean, I get why they're complaining, but also it's like, this is what you've trained us to do, Ubisoft. It's like you train an attack dog and then you get pissed off when it bites your hand. You know what I mean? So it's like, this was inevitably going to happen, especially when, again, these AAA budgets have ballooned out of control, and it seems like this one game not selling well enough is enough to potentially have to sell the entire company. I can't keep hammering home enough how important it is not to wager the entire future of your company on the success of one enormously budgeted game. It's just, this is what happens, right? So it's a lot of things all into one. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, Tencent is potentially talking about being a buyer on this, or at least that's the rumor going around right now, which would give them stake in all of Ubisoft and most of Epic, I think, and so many other companies as well, which I don't love. I just hope as many people as possible are able to keep their jobs, and maybe they learn some good lessons from this instead of bad ones, but I am not hopeful about that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's like a constant issue right now, like in the industry at large, like not just video games, but also like kind of streaming, where it's like a similar issue of making a lot of games that are really big and like expecting people to immediately buy it and then like recoup that cost that went into the game like immediately. Whereas like if you're constantly pumping out games, not everyone can play that many games that quickly. Like, a lot of people wait for sales, especially right now when it's like more economically turbulent, with like people may not have as much money to spend. So when you're making like a giant game and then immediately wanting to recoup the costs like within the first month or so, like, that's just not always going to happen. Like, especially like Ubisoft games, like a lot of their games like go on sale. Like you kind of mentioned, they've been trained to kind of wait for that point. Like for me, like I'm a big AC head. Like I love Assassin's Creed. I love that series, but like those games are so big. I'm still on Odyssey. Like I still haven't finished that game. And like, I'm not going to immediately go out and buy the next one, because why would I buy the next one when I'm still got this other one?
That's a good point too, is that like, like it or not, games are $70 now, and like it or not, that means people have to be more discerning. You know what I mean? The more you increase the price of things, the less people are going to buy every game that comes out, right? Yeah.
So while we're talking about Ubisoft, several weeks back, we talked about Davide Soliani, who was known for the Mario and Rabbids Kingdom battle game, among other things, breaking off from Ubisoft, leaving and saying he's going to be off on some new adventure. Well, we have finally found out what that is, and it is a new studio that he is opening with some other veterans called Day for Night. I know there was some talk about maybe join Nintendo and that sort of thing. But this is probably the more expected outcome, honestly. What do y'all think about this? They've even received funding, which we know is hard to do in these times. Any thoughts about this new studio and who's involved in that sort of thing?
Not much, other than I'm very happy for him. It's good to not be shackled to Ubisoft right now. And I think he was probably a very hot commodity. I mean, he was kind of an auteur with these games. I think a lot of people really look up to him and hold him in high regard. So the fact that he was able to do this and secure funding shows that it's probably, at least where his heart is, if not a pretty solid footing that he can go forward on. But I'll definitely be playing whatever game they put out next. They say they're trying to develop a new IP, which that's what you want to hear. A group of talented developers working on something brand new without having a bunch of investors breathing down their backs at a major studio. Sign me up.
This week, same day that this podcast comes out, actually, Jason Schreier, the video game journalist's new book is coming out. This one's all about Blizzard. It's called Play Nice, and it's sort of like, I guess, as I understand it, all about the history of Blizzard, and he interviewed tons and tons of people that work there. And as we know, there's been some interesting developments with Blizzard and the acquisition and the unionization of the World of Warcraft team and all sorts of things going on. So I imagine this book's going to be interesting. And Stephen, I know you said that there were some things already kind of coming out from the book. Is that right?
Yeah, he's been on a couple podcasts here and there as he's doing his tour, his media tour for the book release. But it sounds like it goes into a lot of interesting stuff, like individual people that were hired and let go, like Andy Weir, the Martian author, used to work at Blizzard and was fired after a month or something. A bunch of really interesting little tidbits here and there. I've heard it's a really great read for someone who's not you don't have to be a huge fan of Blizzard. I haven't played that many Blizzard games myself, but I'm super excited to read this book because Jason's other two books, I have them here, the Blood, Sweat, and Pixels and the Press Reset are both fantastic reads. He does really good reporting on not just the company and the games, but the people, what goes into the games, how it affects people, how it affects the industry at large. Lots of really great personal stories. I know he's talked to...
Is it with Hearthstone and the Hong Kong protests? They had their titles stripped from them because they mentioned Hong Kong protests.
Yes, exactly.
Along those lines, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to be a really good book. I'm super excited for it to come out.
I'm really curious too, because I think as much as I liked Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, my main complaint was it didn't go deep enough into a lot of these topics that I wanted to. And so I'm excited to see him really dig into a larger company and interview all these individuals, because that was the best part of Blood, Sweat, and Pixels to me, was the amount of interviews he did and how he kind of put it all together to build the history through those interviews. So I'm I didn't actually know this book was coming out, and now I'm kind of excited.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of sales numbers from Japan based on Famitsu, and that's a lot. Unsurprisingly, perhaps, it's leading the charts over there by quite a bit. I don't know if there's any other regions that have reported that y'all have heard about on this game, but I expect this game will do pretty well based on all that.
Yeah, I think it was 200,000 copies or something sold in the first week in Japan, which I think puts it above Breath of the Wild, I'm pretty sure. Tears of the Kingdom is the lead fastest selling Zelda game, and now it's Echoes of Wisdom behind it. So that's really good to see. I honestly had no idea if this game was going to be popular or not, and I'd love to see what the US sales numbers are like when we finally get something from Circana or whatever, but that's pretty amazing, and that's an amazing start.
And there were just a couple other little interesting news items or just discoveries that came out this week, one of which is that this is the first mainline Zelda game that Miyamoto is not credited in. So we were talking about the future of Nintendo and that sort of thing at the beginning there with the shout outs. And there's an example of that in action, right?
Fujibayashi also had no hand in this game, who's been the director of Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. So this seems like it was completely a Grezzo joint, almost 100%.
Very nice. And then I thought this was pretty cool. Somebody took the time to overlay the map from Link to the Past on top of the game, and apparently it fits perfectly, which maybe people have already discovered before this, but this was the first time that I had heard about it, and it's just kind of expanded out, right? And man, that's cool. I think.
Yeah, pretty cool. It's kind of like the third time they've used this map, though. I mean, because A Link Between Worlds also used the A Link to the Past map. Obviously, it's a lot bigger and it's not a 1-to-1 here, right? But I'd like for the next game to maybe have. Maybe the next game isn't set in Hyrule at all, right? Like set it entirely in a new kingdom. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, next up has been some news that Monolith Soft is working on a new engine for, quote, large-scale projects. There was an interview done with, I think, the COO of Monolith Soft where this came up, that they're trying to do some work ahead of time on building this engine so that when they get to development, they can do big things. But they're kind of known for big-scale games already, so what... Any speculation? Xenoblade Chronicles 4 going to be like 10 times as big or what?
Yeah. Super Switch confirmed. No, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is just them future-proofing while they have the time in between the cycles. They're like, okay, we don't know exactly when this system's coming out, but we know we're going to have to scale our shit up for the next level. And that's what it reads to me as, is they're just kind of future-proofing their studio, which is really smart. I mean, they've always also been like a really consistent studio. It seems like they're putting games at a consistent clip, and they're always come out relatively bug-free compared to a lot of other games in the industry. So I feel like they just have a lot of good management systems in place to kind of like keep their studio running like a well-oiled machine, which is sometimes rare. So it's cool to see, but to me, it's just future-proofing.
Yeah. I think that this is just going to be what the future of Nintendo is looking like soon, is growing people at their studios. Monolith Soft is now a Nintendo-owned studio. They share a space in their Kyoto headquarters. You know, they're there in the building with them. Nintendo is building that new development center, I think, in Kyoto. I think there maybe is one. I know there's one in Tokyo, but I think they're doing a second building in Kyoto, and that's been kind of pushed back even further because they're making the building even bigger than they were going to be making it before, right? So, we talk about the industry is getting really, really big. I mean, Nintendo is not separate from that, right? And here you've got Monolith Soft saying themselves, it's like, we're making a brand new engine, we're hiring new people, we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I hear this stuff and I'm excited about it, obviously, because on the Switch 2, and sorry, Jordan, I am calling it the Switch 2 after that one leak where they said there's a giant 2 on the shell. We'll have to see about that one, but I'm kind of hedging my bets on that one right now. But anyway, it's going to be great to see what the second Switch is able to do with these new hardware and bigger worlds. But, I do get a little hesitant about the enormous hiring spree and growth of the company right now, especially seeing what we're seeing everywhere else in the industry when kind of unchecked growth has led to kind of implosion at a lot of levels in the AAA space.
Well, our next couple of news items are going to bring us into our main topic, and they are both F-Zero related as well. So that's pretty cool. We got some news that on NSO on the 11th of October, there's going to be 2 new F-Zero games joining the, I guess it's the expansion pack. So you got to pay for the extra one, right? But F-Zero GP Legend and F-Zero Climax are both coming to NSO. And that's pretty cool for a lot of reasons. One of these, at least, was just Japan, correct?
Yeah, that's right. F-Zero Climax was never released outside of Japan. F-Zero Climax is the last F-Zero game before F-Zero 99. The series took a long hiatus, as long as you don't count the DLC tracks from Mario Kart 8. I mean, these are both really great games. They're both certainly better than Maximum Velocity, which was, I don't know if that was a launch game for the Game Boy Advance, but it was very early on in the Game Boy Advance's life. And I think both of these games did a lot better on the system than that original game did. GP Legend is kind of a tie-in with the anime, which was airing a little bit in the US, and then I don't think they ended up doing all the rest of the dubs for that. But F-Zero Climax is really cool. It's got a lot of really great stuff. It's kind of a refinement of the 2D formula, or kind of the SNES era style of I almost said Grand Theft Auto, of F-Zero. And it's got really cool stuff in it, like a track editor and tons of remix stages and all this different stuff. So when these games come out, if you're an F-Zero fan, I would definitely say check these out.
Very nice. And also on the F-Zero front this week, F-Zero 99 got an update. new tracks, new vehicles, right? New modes, or I don't know. I don't know all the details about this because I haven't actually had a chance to play it, but I've had a chance to watch you play it a little bit, David.
They basically, this is an enormous update. I mean, this is the 1 year anniversary of F-Zero 99 coming out, so they kind of pulled out all the stops, and basically what they did is they added a whole brand new cup. So the course list went from 15 tracks now to 20, and this is in addition to the mirrored courses that they have and the classic versions of courses that they added in previous updates as well. Basically, this added the new Ace Cup that they've added is the tracks from BS Grand Prix, which was a Satellaview only release in Japan only of F-Zero tracks, right? This was kind of, if you're not familiar with this Satellaview, it was like a download service that used satellites and stuff only in Japan, and you could play these brand new tracks, and they would have like audio clips of like Japanese celebrities talking over it and stuff as you played it because it was a broadcast, right? But this is amazing. You know, we never thought we would actually see this. Fans have been clamoring for this for a long time. There's still 5 Satellaview tracks that are not in this pack right now, so hopefully we'll get another release down the line. Some of those are thought to be lost media, and if they were to port them, they would have to rebuild them from scratch. But seeing how much love NST, Nintendo Software Technologies, which is one of the US studios of Nintendo here, has put into this game, I would fully expect for that to be coming out pretty soon. And I just want to say as well, if you haven't played F-Zero 99 in a while, if you haven't played since that initial surge and you enjoyed the game back then and you're wondering if it's worth jumping back in, it totally is. Competition is really, really hard right now because it's mostly people that have been playing since the game came out, you know, but they added a bunch of really great stuff. The drive assist feature is really, really helpful for actually making it through Grand Prix and getting to the end. All the new emotes and stuff you can unlock and challenges are laid out in a much easier way now. It's definitely worth checking this game out. I've been playing it a lot over the past week.
Well, I think then that is going to do it for our news segment. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking all about Nintendo Switch Online and the future of NSO on the Switch 2 or Super Switch. We are back, and this week we are talking about NSO, Nintendo Switch Online, with a new Nintendo console coming sometime relatively soon, we presume. And a lot of people's Nintendo Switch Online annual membership coming up at the end of this month, around this time of year. We thought it would be a great time to kind of check in about NSO and maybe some speculation and some hopes for what we might like to see as Nintendo Switch Online presumably moves on to a new console. I guess that's maybe a good place to start. I think we're taking it as a given, right? That NSO is continuing, right? They've kind of called this new console, said it will be in the Switch family. So
yeah, and they, you know, Nintendo now has a new company, Nintendo Systems, which has been basically created in order to facilitate this transfer. You know, they've talked a lot about the Nintendo account system and kind of how that is going to factor into all of their stuff and the kind of continuity of service for consumers and stuff like that. So unless they do the stupidest thing in the world, it seems, yes, that NSO and kind of all your game purchases and everything will be transferring over to the new system. What form that takes, we'll have to see.
So I guess sort of as a similar given, I assume we all agree that probably everything that exists on NSO now would still exist, right? One of the things that's always tricky about this in my mind is presumably there'll be still people playing Switch, right? Like, so none of those things can really go away, or could they? Do you think, you know, it's only sort of an expansion of the service that might happen, or do you think there's anything they might retract or change like that?
I really hope not. I mean, I feel like it's really hard to take something away once you've given it, but Nintendo doesn't care. So
they have a long history of that, actually.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like really wary. We all kind of pause because we're like, shit, I don't know, dude. Nintendo does this anyway. They don't really care. But I have a feeling like with the new leadership and the new way that the company is moving, that everything will just be same and like additions on top just to add more value to the service. And what that adds to monetarily might change, something like that, or they might add like more tiers. I honestly hope they don't add more tiers. It's pretty fucking simple right now, and it's like really easy to keep track of versus like I don't even know what the tiers are on Xbox right now.
Or PlayStation is really confusing. Yeah.
So
They've
confusing.
changed so often too.
Yeah, exactly. You want to talk about stuff going away and phasing in and out. I mean, the other systems do that right now currently, right? I do think, not to get all doom and gloomy right at the beginning with speculation on what they might delete, but it's like, I do wonder about how the contracts for a lot of these third-party games that are included in these emulators were written, right? What is the end date for those? Is it as long as there's a Switch console? Is that why the next console is called a Switch? Does it stipulate that it's only on this Switch and not any future console? So it kind of depends on how a lot of the licensing was done for some of these ROMs that are on there, and that's not even bringing into account a lot of the games that we enjoy right now that are part of the NSO subscription as well, like Tetris 99, F-Zero 99, and so forth, right? But I would be very surprised. I mean, Nintendo seems to be running the show here. They own most of the stuff that's being put out. So I would be very surprised if all of these things don't move over to the next console, just like all the rest of your purchases. I think that would be a pretty dire situation.
I think that makes sense. It does feel that way, right? Like it feels hard to take things away. You do make me wonder though, like, because they have taken away Pac-Man 99 and the Mario 35 that like do you think the 99 games are a little more at risk?
I hope Tetris 99 is too big to fail. The game is still incredibly popular. Both of those are different situations in a way. I mean, one of them is bullshit. Mario 35 was dumb, but that was also that we did an episode on the Great Mario Purge of 2020, right? It was just like them, snapping their fingers and so many things went away that year. And then Pac-Man was not owned by Nintendo. They put it on their service, but that was a license, right? And that kind of went up. That was owned by Namco, Bandai Namco, right? So It definitely could happen, but I'm a little more interested in how they'll expand the service because, like you said, at the end of this month, I feel like most people's yearly subscription for the expansion pack is going to roll over. So they kind of need to put their best foot forward on why people should stay subscribed to the service. And then, of course, with the next system as well, you don't want to lose even more subscribers.
Well, yeah, I think so. I think it was October 25th, if I'm not mistaken, that the expansion pack was released or what have you. So a lot of people, like you said, David, probably have a new charge coming on that day. Do you think there's anything Nintendo might do in the coming weeks or for the rest of the Switch lifespan to enhance NSO, to appease those people or make sure they stay on? Or do we think it's all going to be focused on the new console launch?
I kind of don't think so. I think the new console is coming up really soon. I think the way that they would is if they were to announce the Switch successor before the end of this month, then I think that they would also be like, Nintendo Switch Online is also going to look a little bit different. And here's stuff that's already starting now. You know what I mean? Like sync it up, like a Switch 2 announcement with kind of what the future of NSO is. And hopefully a lot of the stuff that we talk about in this episode will be a part of that as well. But yeah, I kind of see the timing of it being pushed a little bit further out, probably to sync up with the new console. I think it's the same reason why we haven't gotten major like UI or home screen improvements during all this time. I think that they were just like, we'll just save it all for the next system, right? And then that's just been increasingly delayed year on year, which I think it was supposed to be out by this point.
Yeah, and also you just like, as much as we love F-Zero on this podcast, it feels like they're starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel as far as games go, or start putting, Japanese release titles with no subtitles or dubs or any translation efforts put in, which to me is like, do you have nothing else to put on this system to continually add value? But they still have this mentality of, no, we have to continually add value at a specific clip. Otherwise, people will unsubscribe. But I really don't feel like this they're going to do anything super big to rock the boat this year. Maybe add a couple new games. I would love to see some more third-party support, similar to the just breadth of content that we had with the virtual console. I feel like so many of those games are missing. It would be nice to have a couple more, and that would be the way that they could expand it. They could be like, oh, we just struck all these brand new deals with people to put this content out. Like, so we can at least have a bigger expansion of the service without, without having to. They already put all their games on there. I don't know what else to say, like they already put all their games on there. What else are they going to put out besides F-Zero? Sorry, David.
No, it's okay. Swirsky, what are your thoughts on Nintendo Switch Online? Are you a subscriber? Do you subscribe to the expansion pack? Like, what are your thoughts on the service as a whole as it currently stands?
Yeah, I'm not subscribed, and I don't know if I think I was briefly, and then unsubscribed because I just wasn't finding anything worth staying around for. But I'm also a little bit different in that regards. I was on the podcast when we talked about achievements, so y'all know I'm like super into that. And I don't want to like rehash that a lot, but I think I was kind of mulling over why I'm not drawn to NSO and that kind of stuff. And I think it's because there's for me personally, no like building up of like my personal profile on the Switch and with NSO. Like I was kind of looking over it and looking at what they offer, and they have the like missions and like rewards for like profile pictures and of course like the physical items, but it feels like that's kind of it. There's nothing really to like build up your account on Nintendo.
Sure.
Like there's nothing to really like customize besides the profile pictures, and there's nothing to really like add. You're just kind of like playing the games that they have on the service. Whereas like Xbox and PlayStation, Steam, like they all have these things that kind of keep pulling you in to where you're constantly building up your kind of own presence on the system, to where like if someone were to look at your profile, they can kind of see not just the games you're playing, but kind of what you're building up for yourself. Like, sometimes it's just a number, like a gamer score or whatever, but sometimes it's like cool unlocks or things you can display. Like Steam has, I know it's kind of dumb, but like you can display different things like on your Steam account, like different themes, and you can have like a little header where you can display like these are some of the things I've done in like games, or like your whole catalog of stuff. Like, I don't know, just some kind of like customization option to like bring to NSO is what I personally would be looking for. Because it's just kind of lacking that.
Yeah, I mean, I know like Xbox 2 has, certain unlocks for clothing for your avatars and things of that nature. It's like, dude, we have these whole Miis, but they're so basic. Like, there's just not really a buildup of why am I continuing playing these games? And then also even like when you're playing these old games, it would be so cool to have, like achievements for the old games. Like they add them in later. I mean, what was the game that came out that I didn't really like, but I played a little bit of? World Championship Edition something. They kind of had like achievements in that, which I thought was incredible. I'm like, why don't we just take that mentality and apply it broadly over the entire like NSO app, just to give us something like to hold on to? And I think one of my favorite things that they've been doing recently is certain old school games will have key art from the time be unlockables for your icons and stuff. And those icons are incredible, but it's like maybe once a month. Like I think right now it's Kirby. Yeah. And last time it was like Link's Awakening, and they're all great, but it's like I get it in a day and that's it.
Yeah. I don't think that that's a good substitute as well. But I mean, I think the main reason that people are subscribed is to play games online. Right, because you can't otherwise. I imagine you're not much of a Nintendo online gamer then, if you don't currently have an NSO subscription.
Right.
So I think all this other stuff is kind of like perks, but I think that what they should be looking towards for this next system, if what they really want to do is push this Nintendo systems led, like Nintendo Switch Online subscription, is people like you, right? That are like, I'm not a Splatoon player. I'm not a Mario Kart Online player. So what's in it for me, if not that? And I'm not, and I can emulate any game I want. Like, why would I pay for the emulation? Blah, 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 blah. So I totally understand that. And I agree. I think that they've done really well, especially at the base price too. But I think like, I'm curious what the actual like attach rate of like, say the expansion pack is, right? Because the expansion pack is like a pretty good deal. Honestly, I am a expansion pack owner. I'm a Switch daddy. I've got a Switch family that are all underneath me. Actually, I've gone now 2 years without collecting. So I actually probably need to hit y'all up on that. Maybe one of those years is on me because I forgot. But anyway, we'll talk about that after the show. But anyway, it's really cheap. It's like, I think $10 a year or something when you split up a family plan for the expansion pack, right? But still, I think just most people are locked in on that individual membership. And not even the expansion pack tier. So I'm wondering on some of the stuff that we're going to talk about, do you guys see them adding a new tier to Nintendo Switch Online, or do you think they're still going to try to bolster up the expansion pack tier even further? Like, right now they've got DLC on there. They've got Game Boy Advance and N64 and Genesis. And is there anything else that is expansion pack exclusive? So I don't know. I think I'd like to see a big expansion of that tier, right?
I agree.
Yeah, because I think it's a really great deal. And I think if they could get just that many more people on that tier and really sweeten the pot, especially if people are not online gamers, I think that's going to be a really good way to go forward.
Yeah, I think, and this, Stephen, I'd be curious about, if the sort of DLC aspect appeals to you at all, like of this expansion pack. Because I know, like, Mario Kart 8, all those extra courses, like, maybe if I had just bought them rather than 3 years of NSO Online, it would be the same price, but that feels good. And then my family was all in on the DLC for Animal Crossing. I almost feel like those things happened and it kind of felt like this is the way forward, but it hasn't really been. But I am curious.
Yeah, they just didn't do anything else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, Stephen, we know you'd be interested in like customization options, but like, would free games or free DLC also appeal to you?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends. Like, I think with Mario Kart 8, I just bought it separately because I don't remember signing up for the expansion at all. I think it's also just for me, like I'm already subscribed to so many things. It's like, like what they offer is cool for the price, but it's like, it's not quite enough for me to like bite the bullet to like subscribe to another thing. So I don't like being tied to like too many things in my life. Like, and I'm already tied to like a bunch of like, streamers and then other stuff. Yeah, like it's just missing that. I don't need access to things. I want like to build up. Like I want to like be able to like build up things. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know how to
build
word
your
it.
like put your personality into kind of the systems that you like to use.
Yeah, because it's like even with the games that they're offering, like I think they're great for like really easy access. But like if we're talking about like emulation and like you can hook up like retro achievements to emulators and like that's like exactly what I'm missing. Because like I recently got like a Steam Deck and like I've been really getting into looking into all that stuff and like that's opened up like a whole new world for me with going back and looking at these retro games again, like games that I probably never would have touched again because like the allure of like a new game is always so appealing to me. But like now that it's like tacking on this additional thing, it makes it feel new again. It's not just you're not just playing the game again. It's like it feels fresh because it's like adding this other element to it.
I agree. I think that is something that Nintendo absolutely should take and add into their emulation specifically. I mean, obviously, an achievement system has to kind of get off the ground to begin with before they can start adding it retroactively to old games, right? But like, maybe not. Maybe they add achievements, but only for games on like the N64 app. You know what I mean? Like before they put them in their real games. But who knows what path they would take there? But I do think the one advantage that NSO emulation has over something like, say, playing on a Steam Deck is just the ease of multiplayer, right? Like adding the ability to connect with anyone online and play games is not a feature I use that often, if I'm honest. I wish I used it more. But, all these other things, it's like, if I've got a fucking, Ambernic device, maybe I could play online with other Ambernic devices if somebody has that exact thing or whatever. I know Retroid Pockets can play together and stuff like that, but it's hard to set up and you got to go through servers and you got to do all this difficult, this is just straight up, right? It just kind of works. Now, granted, Nintendo's online is pretty shitty and, it's like, sometimes it goes a little slow and the audio glitches and whatever, right? So you have to kind of be smart about who you're actually connecting with and kind of shun your friends that have shitty internet. But that is a really cool feature that I don't see on a lot of other emulation stuff. It seems like most of the content and freebies is kind of focused on multiplayer. You know, like I said, it's kind of, they really want Nintendo Switch Online to be like, here you go, online gaming centric, right? And hopefully, I think, you know, if we're just talking broadly about things that we want to see with Nintendo Switch Online, hopefully just stronger servers, better connections, better infrastructure in general for online play. You know, I don't want to have to pay for this service and then have an unplayable mode in Mario Maker 2 because, you know, the online is just insufferable, right? Like that feels like a slap in the face. So if we're just talking grand picture, that would be my first wish, is that they, you know, and all, by all accounts, they have been building up new servers and they have been working on their infrastructure in the back end for a while. And hopefully that's something that is also going to be launching with the next system.
Well, that makes me wonder too, because, you know, one of the things that they show in, you know, the old NSO videos when they announce it and all that is the smartphone app, right? And like, this is how you can voice chat and a couple other things, right? Like, but do we want that to go away? Do you think, I guess I kind of feel like it should either go away and they should make all that native, you know, like whether it's voice chat and finding people or whatever, or they should lean really hard into it and make it really robust and like, and I'd probably prefer it go away, but I think that
it's going to be, they're going to lean into it. I think that they are going to lean into it. That said, I'd love for them to have native voice chat on the system. The rumor right now is that the Switch 2 does have a mic on board and has even the ability to stick a camera on it as well. So having an inline chat function, I think, is a must. I think requiring a phone for their chat means I'll never use their chat ever because I'll just use Discord, right? So absolutely, I think that they need to put that on system. That said, though, I think that there's a lot they can and will do with the phone app going forward. The Switch attach rumors notwithstanding, a lot of rumors that have been going pretty solidly for the past like 2 years that don't really get talked about a lot is a system that heavily integrates with a cell phone app, right? And I could see them pushing a lot more things forward with that. I've got some ideas on what they could do, but if anybody else has anything before I get into some of those.
Yeah, I mean, I personally hope they move away just because it really adds a lot of friction to the entire experience where it's like I have to have multiple devices. And then if I have voice chat on my phone, I usually want to use wireless earbuds with a microphone built in. And then I can't hear the game that I'm playing with people. So the entire experience just becomes completely disconnected and makes me have to like juggle multiple devices. And I just think it's just not the way, man. Like you don't want to keep adding friction into stuff when you go onto, like I go onto my Xbox console and it's all there. Bare minimum features, voice chat rooms, Discord app integration, easy to find my friends without having a 16-digit code.
Like, that's got to go.
All this shit is just like so basic, and it's been the bare minimum for like over a decade, probably closer to 15 years now. Steam figured it out 20 years ago. Like it's time to catch up, man. That's what I'm really like looking for. If you're gonna keep this system going, is just parity with like pretty much every other platform that exists for gaming.
Steam is embarrassingly ahead of where Nintendo is at. I feel like Steam is ahead of all the other consoles as well. So it's like something at least like Xbox level is what I'm looking for, right? Like I can't hope that, even though I have now a Steam Deck that's basically an amazing Switch that does everything I want a Switch to do, but it doesn't have a Nintendo logo on it. I'm spoiled, you know what I mean? And I want all of that, but I'm trying to do baby steps and be a little bit more realistic here, you know? Yeah.
Back to the smartphone app real quickly, though. I do think I would love for it to be a companion and like not do anything necessarily by itself, or maybe there are even some things that would make sense that only you do on the cell phone, but like more so like when I'm not home and not at my Switch, I could quickly purchase a game or quickly look at my friends list or some of those kind of things. And obviously that would be more robust if those systems were more robust too. Like then it might be fun to scroll and look at Stephen's profile that he's built up right on my
totally.
phone
It's
app.
all connected.
Like,
yeah.
But I feel like things like that would make sense for a phone app, but nothing
That's-
should be just there, right?
You
Like,
basically just described the Xbox phone app.
yeah, it should
Yes,
be like,
that's what I was going to say. It's like you build up the infrastructure and the way that it works on the console, and then also beef up the app, and then the two work in tandem, right? I think the share button on the Xbox controller, sharing right to my app, which then I can just straight up download, is great. It's a little laggy and slow, and I wish it wasn't quite as slow as it is, the Xbox app, but it's better than what we have right now, right? And we've got some other stuff on here that I think you could also integrate into that phone app that I think would be pretty cool. Like somebody wrote on here, I'm not sure who added this, but a Miiverse upgrade or replacement. That was you, Jordan. Yeah, I think, Miiverse was amazing. I loved Miiverse so much, and I'd love for you to jump in whenever you have something, but it's like, I don't need that on my system. In fact, having it on the system is kind of a cumbersome way to do it. I think if you incorporated some sort of like scrolling feature to look at what your friends were posting or doing all within the phone app, I think that would be a great complement to whatever you have on the system. You can upload stuff from there, but it's like they've already taken away the ability to upload to Twitter, right? Because of the ridiculous API fees. And now I've made it to where it uploads to Facebook or whatever, but that's even more difficult to get stuff off of than it was to get stuff off of Twitter. Having some sort of bespoke area where you can just put all your shit and not have to bother all of your like friends that aren't trying to like view every screenshot you take. You know what I mean? It just makes a ton of sense, right? And having that as or built into the Nintendo Switch Online app or whatever they want to call this new thing that's going to be using your Nintendo account, I think that that's a really great idea to keep mobile.
Anything else on the phone before we move away from that, the phone app?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of a big swing, but something I'd really like to see added to, and this doesn't have to be on the NSO phone app, but something I think that Nintendo's sitting on a giant cache of right now is music. And I think, and increasingly with Nintendo Pictures and the Mario movie and a lot of stuff that they're planning on putting out soon, movies as well. So some sort of streaming option for things that aren't games with the Nintendo catalog would be incredible, right? Ideally, I'd love to just have Nintendo put all their music out onto Spotify, right? But I think something that would be much more Nintendo-like to do would be integrating some sort of music streaming service within the Nintendo Switch Online phone app or as its own thing that can come bundled with your subscription, right? I think that might be a pretty cool, enticing way for people that aren't interested in playing online games.
Would that sway you, Steven, if you could listen to any Nintendo song on your phone?
No.
No, and now remember, by this point, they've nuked every YouTube channel that plays Nintendo music on it. They've gone whole hog on the copyright strikes.
That is interesting, though, because I know they did that Mario Kart 8 update, right? Where you can listen to the music in standby mode or something.
Mm-hmm.
Did they add that to the game?
Something like that. I know they did similar stuff with Smash as well.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder if they have any kind of data on that, how many people use a service like that. It just makes me curious why they would even add something like that. If they're testing. Well, I'm saying that because would they be testing to see if something like that is successful to potentially do some other bigger thing related to music? Because you're right, they don't have easy access to that music in other places online, like Spotify and whatever music streaming services. So it seems like it would make sense to have a hub for that rather than a game per game basis.
Yeah, and it's stuff that they could control, they have the servers and it's all being funneled to them. It's not like some random YouTuber or some other service is getting paid for their stuff. It's all kind of bundled in with, hopefully, ideally the expansion pack, I would say.
Well, one of the big things on NSO is obviously the emulation, the apps to play NES or SNES or whatever games. Do you think in a Switch 2, world are there going to be, the next systems? Are they going to add those? I feel really iffy about that. I don't know.
I think definitely Virtual Boy for the lower tier, because it's kind of a gimmick almost at this point.
I think it's time. Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's only 14 games, so you can just put them all on there.
Yep.
Like, it's every game.
The people are clamoring for Waterworld on the Virtual Boy to be able to be played on the Super Switch, But I think honestly, dude, with the GameCube, that's where I'm really get tripped up, because it gets really tricky because so many of these games have been re-released, but then there's certain games that you really can't access anymore, like Super Mario Sunshine or Luigi's Mansion 1 is a perfect example. Like, why didn't they put out Luigi's Mansion 1 in a bundle pack with Luigi's Mansion 2? Would have added way more value to that game. And to me, it's like, I guess they're planning to do a GameCube update, and it's going to have those are probably two of the launch games for it, is Luigi's Mansion and Super Mario Sunshine.
Man, you really think they're going to be doing GameCube games on NSO?
If they're going to be doing it for the new system, yeah, I think they would upgrade it for the new system. I really do. I think everyone who's wanted to release these GameCube games and make their extra little money has probably done so by now. I don't really see a ton of new GameCube games coming out. And the ones that did come out also added features. They added their remasters or upscales, whereas I feel like if they're going to add it to the service, it's just going to be like a straight emulated thing, and that's it.
I don't know. I kind of am still on the side where I don't think they're going to be adding GameCube games. I think it's for silly reasons too. I think it's just because of space, it's like the, an NSO app or whatever of all these GameCube games installed in the background would just take up a bunch of fucking space. And yeah, I guess you could make it to where it's only download these games and they're more on demand, I guess. But I just think that they've seen success with re-releasing them in different forms. And I think that the reason we've seen all these different kind of schizophrenic GameCube releases is because they're trying to see which one does the best, right? Do we make more money selling Pikmin for cheaper, but we also don't do anything to it? We don't have development time on it. And we just kind of basically have GameCube emulation and call it a day? Or do we make more money when we sell it for $40 and we call it a remaster and it's Metroid Prime? Or is it better when we fully remake it with Thousand Year Door? You know what I mean? I think they're kind of taking all of these numbers and all this data internally and seeing what the fuck they're supposed to do with GameCube, because I just think they don't know, and I'd love to see it obviously come to NSO. But I also don't want to not get really well crafted remakes of GameCube games, because Thousand Year Door was an amazing remake, right? And I think I was happy to play that game for full price, even though maybe actually it was your copy that I played, Jordan. But still, you know what I'm saying. I do think Virtual Boy though is going to happen. I think it's time. And I mean, if this Switch attach phone connector is anything to be believed, then you've got DS there and potentially even 3DS as well.
I don't know about GameCube. I can see both of your arguments there, but DS seems a little more likely, right? Or possible, though there is obviously that screen issue.
Yeah, I don't really know how they do it.
Yeah,
I think the flip grip made so much sense. I can't believe the flip grip was never fully embraced by Nintendo, or they didn't make their own version. But it's putting the Switch into this vertical orientation and Tate mode, and having one screen on top of the other. It fits perfectly with the flip grip, right? So it's surprising to me that there was never an official Nintendo accessory that took advantage of that.
I feel like there is an opportunity to make an accessory that the second screen is your cell phone. And that would actually make me be way more okay with beefing up the Nintendo Switch Online app. But yeah, the DS is that's a tricky beast, man. I want to believe, but part of me is just unless they add an actual second screen, which would be something maybe they sell it like they sell the Nintendo 64 controllers or the Super Nintendo controllers, where it's oh yeah, if you have the expansion, you have access to buy this secondary screen so you can play the DS games as intended, or you can play it two side by side on the screen, which is not ideal, but it's not nothing. So I feel it's something like that if you're going to do the DS. And I feel a lot of DS games just haven't been ported or haven't been transferred over to the Switch. So for me, that seems more likely that they would do it because they're not competing with all these other like individual games coming out, as opposed to like GameCube, which had a bunch of re-releases on the Switch. So I don't know. I could see the DS as well, but there's barriers.
It'd be nice if there was an elegant solution, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that the Tate mode thing is the most elegant solution, right? I think because that way you've got it kind of as intended. It would fill up almost all of the screen, and you could use touchscreen functionality. And it's like stuff like the Castlevania Dominus Collection. They do a really good job. They've got the map and your menu off to the side, which is like usually a screen you would have to toggle between for the bottom screen. And they've got both of those at all times, and then kind of your main screen is big. But that's not going to work with all DS games. In fact, a lot of them that would be really awkward. Like Sonic Rush, for instance. That's something that uses that game is essentially a vertical game. Because it's just one screen on top of the other and you're running up and down between the two of them, right? So games like that wouldn't benefit from something like that. That would be an inelegant solution. So I think whatever they do, I hope is cool. Attaching your phone and who knows what kind of fucking screen you have on there to your Switch does not sound like a very elegant solution to me, but we'll have to see how they do it. Before we move away from other things we'd like to see added to emulation, what the fuck do we think they're going to possibly ever do with Pokemon?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
It hurts my brain that they haven't even done anything with it right now. It's crazy that the amount of money they're leaving on the table. You want to talk about attach rate? Like how many people would sign up for the expansion pass just for Pokemon alone? Like if you added the games to the the expansion pass for Advance, and then you added the ones for Game Boy on the lower tier, like it's just crazy to me that they haven't done anything. Like, I don't know. I feel like the dark part of me is like, yeah, they're going to add a third tier and it's going to only include Pokemon. Like that's going to be the next most expensive tier, is it's just going to be the Pokemon tier, dude.
Is that the October surprise? Is that Nintendo's October surprise? Is a Pokemon app? Because I think honestly, part of the reason that they haven't shown up is because of like save states and save scumming and rewinding and integration with all of these like Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Home stuff. You know what I mean? Because if you can just kind of cheat your way through the game and then all of a sudden put all your things into this, collection that they've built and then put that into your game that you play competitively online, all of a sudden you've got a major problem, right? But if you have your own app, which is another perk of the expansion pack, like you said, I think that's the way to do it. Limit your rewinding your save state, your scumming or whatever. Or if you do want to do that, you can't export from it or something like that, right? So having kind of something in place to kind of stop people from being cheaters online maybe is the reason, but I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about it. It's just complicated by the fact that these aren't just single player games. These are also multiplayer games, right?
I think that's exactly what it is. Now that you say that out loud, I'm like, dude, like imagine shiny hunters being able to just rewind and just try to find a shiny, or
manipulate RNG or whatever. Yeah,
dude, that's got to be what it is. There's like no other way, and they just don't want to integrate it for that reason. But yeah, man, who knows what they're going to do with Pokemon? They got to do something. They're leaving so much money on the table, but I guess they're not want for money enough yet to want to figure it out.
Would Pokemon get you subscribed, Stephen? We're just
Fortunately not.
All right, we're gonna get one feature that's gonna get you on board. I promise.
Well, the other thing, or some of the other big things that they have, right, are the games, the free, quote unquote free, because you pay for the service. Games like the 99 games, Tetris 99 and F-Zero 99. Do we think there'll be any new 99 games? Would that be a good way to start off this service going on to the next system?
Yeah, I'd love for there to be some more free games on there. I love all those games. Like F-Zero 99, honestly, playing that a lot over the past week really has solidified my belief that it is one of the best online games. It's one of the best multiplayer games on the Switch. And the Switch is filled with amazing online multiplayer games, and this just is such a smooth experience and feels so good to play, and they nailed it, right? So yeah, I'd love to see more. We know Arika is working on that Tetris the Grandmasters game, so hopefully they have something banked already that Nintendo's just been sitting on to wait and release for this October or with the release of a new system. But I'd love some more games, and something outside of the 99 Battle Royale genre as well would be really nice to add to this as well. More like little freebies like that are really great.
That's a great thing that they should lean into more, because like that is something that is wholly unique to Nintendo service, is like a free game that's like you can only play through their service. Like unless y'all can think of anything else like with like their competitors, not competitors, but other comparable services like Xbox or Sony. Like I can't think of like a game that was specifically made to only be played if you can like access the like online membership or service through that.
What about that
company.
one like trivia game on like the Xbox 1 or 100 or something like that?
And those were like cool, but like
yeah,
they haven't done that something like that in a long time.
Yeah.
And I remember like getting really into that as well, because it was like this unique thing that came out at a time, and like everyone kind of jumps in because it's like this new unique thing that everyone can play at the same time, similar to like the 99 games. So I think that's like a really cool aspect of the service that would be awesome to see them continue to do stuff in that area.
Yeah, and they don't have to just put them on the base tier as well. Like that's what they've been doing, right? And I think that's probably good, but it's okay if you add some of this to the expansion pack as well. I think they're a little scared to add more stuff to there because they don't want to fracture the install base, but I say go for it.
Well, something you said too made me think that could tie in well with that is not doing 99 games, but maybe online games still, right? But maybe something where you have to play with 4 people or a small amount of people, like just your friends. Like I don't know what it would be, like pick any
like
Nintendo
a Four Swords
franchise.
adventure.
Yeah, pick any Nintendo franchise, right? Like a thing where it's like bespoke Mario game that you play with 4 people, you know what I mean? As Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Peach or something, right? Like that'd be cool if there was more different online only games.
I'm kind of legitimately surprised that Kirby Dream Buffet was not an expansion pass game. Like that's what it felt like to me, because it was already pretty cheap when they released it, but it felt
it's like $7. Yeah.
That they were just going to throw onto the expansion tier and be like, hey, here's a little like freebie for this crazy Kirby game. Like stuff like that would be great. Yeah.
Fun little ideas that they have that they don't necessarily need to develop into a full like $50, $60, $70 game. Just it's okay to have these little bite-sized experiences, especially if they take advantage of the online, because you're getting it with your online subscription, right? I'd love to see more variety there and a more steady cadence. I think something that we haven't really said too is I think some sort of schedule here and roadmap for what they're doing with the service is also good. I kind of understand why they don't do it, because you don't want to just like cancel your thing and then pick it back up when a drop is happening. They kind of purposefully obfuscate to keep people like, oh, well, I could get something new, I guess, at any time. It's a little gaslighty, but
also the DLCs. I'd love to see that just more at a more consistent clip, like you said. And I don't think they can give a roadmap for that for the same reason, but like it would be nice to know that when DLCs come, we get it. Like Splatoon 3's DLC would have been cool to have for free.
Yeah, right. I mean, you should just pick that fucking thing up, Patrick. I'm tired of bullying you to pick that up. It's like $20. Just fucking buy it. But anyway, I agree with you, and I think it is a barrier to entry. I wonder if, because they've done it now to where the DLCs are for their most popular games. It was like Splatoon 2, but then past that was Mario Kart and Animal Crossing, right? So those are surefire bets. Most people who have Switches own both of those games, right? What if they did something where it's like you get a pass to pick, like a voucher system almost, like per year you get one free DLC that you can add or something like that, right? That then sticks around for as long as you're subscribed. If it was one per year, that probably wouldn't hopefully break the bank. But I don't know, something like that might put a little bit more of the onus like on the consumer, instead of them just being like, we hope you enjoy Animal Crossing. If not, you're not enjoying this perk that everybody else is, right?
That's kind of a nice balance if that worked. Yeah. Well, I know we should probably start wrapping this up soon. So I think that one thing that Nintendo offers right now is the voucher system. And I don't really want to see that go away. I'd love to see better offers though, like maybe if you are a subscriber to the expansion pack, older Nintendo games could be really discounted or something like that. I don't know if that's
PlayStation does that.
Yeah, like stuff that came out in 2017, like Odyssey or something. You can get that for $20 or something. I don't know.
Just like the greatest hits, but you have to be a subscriber to access it, would be beautiful. Or dude, even just coupons, dude. Like it sounds lame, but I would love to be like, oh, I have 5,000 platinum points right now. I don't really want anything that I can get on the physical rewards, but I can spend 1,000 to get like 30% off of a kid Nintendo title. That would be something like that would be really nice. And I feel like they had some stuff like that on the 3DS when that was around. Like you could get like percentages off of games, but yeah, I don't know. Something for people who like to collect the platinum points like myself, and then also like are subscribed to the expansion pass would be like nice.
Yeah, I think coupons is a pretty obvious one. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. I was listening to a video from Nintendo Forecast, who has quickly become one of my favorite YouTubers, and he was talking a little bit about some potentials around this area, right? So it's like not like games they can add or features they can add, but rather like the monetary stuff. It's like there's controllers that you can only buy if you're a subscriber and stuff like that in the voucher program, like you said, and one that he posited that gives me a little bit of pause, but I can kind of totally see Nintendo doing this is on Switch 2. If you want to play a version of a Switch game that you have that's beefed up, you can pay $10 for the upgrade like you do on PlayStation right now, or you get them for free if you're a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber. I think once he said that one, I was like, oh man, I can totally see Nintendo doing that. And that would be a pretty good deal. You know what I mean? That would just be adding more value. That would be undercutting, again, what you're seeing out of Sony, right? That's not what you see out of Xbox. Xbox just kind of gives you that stuff for free. That's the best way, obviously. But I can see them tying that in to Nintendo Switch Online in the same way that they do, like, say, cloud saves or something like that, right?
Yeah, I feel like the only reason Xbox does it is because they need to.
Yeah.
They're just trying to, please buy our system, please use us.
Xbox has been very quiet recently. It's kind of hard to remember that Xbox is a thing sometimes.
It's a little off-putting, but that's, I think, a conversation for a different time, because I'm like, you just got all these acquisitions and what's going on over there. Y'all doing okay? Anyway, that's a different conversation, but
well, to bring it home, anything else that we have? I mean, I know there's probably a lot more we could talk about here, but like anything else you really want to see on NSO in the future with new system?
I know we briefly touched on Miiverse stuff, but yeah, just anything in terms of like, it's kind of weird that they still have Miis, but they're just kind of there. It's like anything that expands, like connects your Mii to the NSO would be cool. Like I remember back in Street Pass, like, on the 3DS, you can unlock like costumes for like your Mii to wear in Street Pass, which was like so cool.
Like little hats and stuff.
Yeah, it was just like super fun. Like I was a big fan of Street Pass. I used it all the time. And they had like puzzle pieces that you would collect and stuff. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, but like some kind of like evolution of that would be cool. Whether they combine that with Mii's or something else, but like I was just really surprised that like they already had Street Pass on like a mobile system, and like when they announced like the Switch and it being like another mobile type console, I was just really surprised that they didn't carry forward any of those ideas with the Switch. Like I know they're like trying to appease both mobile gamers and also like kind of couch gamers. But it's just weird that like they just kind of left that completely behind, like the mobile aspect of like taking it with you and like being rewarded for taking it with you. And I don't know, just something like that would be really cool if you roll that into like NSO or the expansion pack or something. Like it could be a game like we were talking about earlier, where it's like a free game that's included in an expansion pass that's like something related to mobile, like taking it with you and connecting with people. that you find like out in the wild. Like that was like the coolest part about 3DS for me. It's like I was in college during that time, so I was like carrying around my 3DS all over the place, and like just seeing like who you would run into was like super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made like, especially for me who like plays more like single player stuff, it was a way to kind of like get that taste of like a bigger sense of community, even if I'm not actively playing with people.
That's a really great point that I hadn't quite thought about in that way, Stephen. And that's just like that. Yeah. By combining the home console and handheld pillars, they've kind of just made it a home console that you can play elsewhere and stripped away all of the handheld console benefits. Right. And I think that it would definitely behoove them, and you would find more people, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I play with my Switch plugged in and I never take it off the thing. Right. It would really incentivize people to take their Switch with them more places. No, now with an 8-inch screen, as is rumored to be on the next system, this is going to be a bigger system, which makes it even harder to carry around. So maybe that's why they're not going so far in this way. But I would like to see more incentives to take your console on the go. And I especially would like to see more of an emphasis on Mii's again. I think Mii's are such a great concept and they're so cool, and I think everybody likes them. Like, does anyone hate Mii's? Like, Mii's are so chill, you know, like, and again, I think it's like a weird Nintendo thing. They're like, oh, it's Mii, it's like Wii, and we're not in Wii anymore, we're Switch, so they got to be Mitch or something. But it's like, it's like
Matach.
Yeah, you're Matach. Yeah, exactly. Matach, milady. But I'd love to see more integration with that kind of stuff. And we kind of forget about it, but like, Nintendo has done an evolution on the Mii's that came out on the Switch with the remake of Miitopia that Grezzo did, right? They really added tons of customization options that weren't there before into Mii's. So much so that where you can make like a fucking show accurate Hank Hill now instead of some Mii facsimile of Hank Hill, right? But it's like, either way, I see Mii stuff all the time in the background. I just wish it would come back to the forefront. Like, I think Echoes of Wisdom, I have a theory that it uses Mii faces for certain emotions. When characters emote, like you see their eyes get really big and it really just looks like they're using Mii features. They like swap out the eyes and stuff for those. So it's like, I don't know. I would love to see that as well. I think that's a great shout out.
Well, didn't they also upgrade the Mii system in the back end for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom NPCs?
They did.
Like They have it ready to go. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Let us play. Let us cook. Let us make Hank Hill.
Yeah, it's always
Not
going
Hitler.
to be Hank Hill and Hitler. Yeah, those are the two. The trifecta of H's there. I think lastly, maybe before we wrap it up, I think we should talk about price. Right. I think as of right now, especially if you take advantage of the family plan, this is far and away the cheapest of the online, excluding Steam, of course, which is entirely free. But as far as Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, by far Nintendo is the cheapest. I certainly think that now with the amount that we have on Nintendo Switch Online, if they continue to add features, I think it does make sense to boost it up a little bit more. I don't want them to take that as an excuse to make a Game Pass where they're doing a licensed timed games coming in and out sort of thing. I don't necessarily think that Nintendo needs that. I think they do just fine with sales of their games and they'd like to keep it that way. But do you guys see a bump in price going towards the next system?
Yeah, I feel like in the next system, all the games are going to be $70. And I think the tiers have to go up at this point, especially everything just costs more, you know, the servers cost more. If they're going to add more functionality, that's going to add more server costs. Like, it just has to go up. And, you know, it makes me wonder, like, are they going to add like a third tier that's more like just bare bones online play? Like, you can play online with this tier and then you get more stuff as you add up. But I feel like the two tiers as it is definitely have to go up in cost.
Yeah, I actually hadn't thought about this when I was thinking they aren't going to add another tier, but I could see the reasoning behind adding another tier being either we're afraid to raise the cost because we're already asking people to buy a new system, so let's make a higher tier and make it attractive, or what you just said, Jordan, which is all the tiers are going up, but if you just want to play online, it's going to stay the same or something. Because I do think it's a tough ask to be like, here's a new $300 whatever dollar system, and
it's gonna be 400 base. Yeah.
And here's an extra cost, and it's going up. But yeah, everything costs more, so I could see it going that way too.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I could see like the family plan going up to like 100 maybe, or even 120 for the expansion pack. But again, it's like maybe here it's keep base NSO as it is. Stop adding stuff to it. Just start adding more and more to the expansion pack and beef up the price there. That way you kind of get the best of both worlds, because I think a lot of people would happily pay for a lot of these features, but maybe they just don't want to split the player base that much.
All right, well then that's going to do it for our discussion on the future of NSO. If you're out there and you have any thoughts about what Nintendo Switch Online should or might look like in the future, definitely let us know, and maybe we can shout you out next time. And with that, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. I've been playing Emio, the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club, but I don't have a whole lot to report there. Just chipping away at it. Maybe when I get closer to the end, I'll give more of an update. Just enjoying it. But I went to that convention at that university in Kerrville, and they had a Street Fighter II Super Nintendo tournament, and I participated. And there was not very many competitors, and it was not very good, but I won.
Hey!
I got a t-shirt.
Hey, do you think that stopped me from gloating when I would beat all those drag queens at Iron Bear? No, take the dub. That's a victory.
Yeah, it was funny because it was like they announced it and then they're like on Super Nintendo, and I was like, well, that's how I played the shit out of it. Like I hold the controller a weird way when I play Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo because of the button layout and stuff, and just like it came back to me instantly. That's the big one I thought I would mention here. I guess I've also been playing, unsurprisingly, a lot more The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom, chipping away at that, playing that with my kid, and we're just having a fun time.
How far are you in that game right now?
Yeah, I don't know how spoil it at this point, but after the initial sort of part, there's new rifts that open up and you can go to. We've done a couple of those. Yeah,
that's about where I'm at too. I've done I guess 4 or 5 temples now.
Yeah, I would say it's about the same then. Really enjoying it. It's fun game to play with somebody else. Despite what I said last time, it is frustrating to play with somebody else, but it's also fun because you can pitch ideas and be like, let me try this when I'm getting frustrated or he's getting frustrated. And I mean, at myself, not at, we also get frustrated at each other, but
yeah.
So yeah.
I'll jump in next because I've also been playing more Echoes of Wisdom, and I am definitely enjoying the game more and more. The more I play it, the more it's clicking with me, and the more I'm actually enjoying the combat as well. Kind of like realizing that you can. Because you get you're like, oh, it's so slow, but you could just kill one of your guys and respawn them so fast, So just sending guys out while they're fighting other people, or they have their back turned and then you shoot somebody out really quickly. It does kind of give you a little bit of Twitch gameplay if you can start to really kind of get the hang of it. But yeah, Echoes of Wisdom is really great. I am enjoying that game quite a bit. I can't wait to play more. I'm going to go really quick. I've also been playing a little bit of Campanella 2 inside UFO 50. That's the only one I'm going to talk about this week because pretty much every time I open up UFO 50 these days, I'm trying to beat Campanella 2. I've got 7.5 or 8 hours in it right now. It is really fucking hard. It is basically the Spelunky 3 of the pack. It is a very similar game where it's all procedurally generated, always a different random layout every time, and you die incredibly easily. But this time, you're in your spaceship kind of going around these giant caverns, and then you can go inside these little caves that then you do kind of on foot, sort of like a Metroid gameplay section as well. So it's sort of a mashup of those two styles. I think I'm now going to try to beat that before I play any of the other games. That's sort of my goal with UFO 50. And then I did play the new Monochrome Heights demo that you put out ahead of the Steam Next Fest. I enjoyed it quite a bit. You've really done a beefy fucking demo here, Patrick. I think I have 3.5 hours or something on this most recent version of the demo, and I've played this game before, so there was definitely some levels in there that were taking me a long ass time to beat. Some of those bonus levels that you have in there. But man, if you haven't checked this out yet, please go download Patrick's demo. It is such a fantastic game. Plays incredibly on the Steam Deck at a rock solid 90 frames per second. And yeah, it's just, you don't see 2D platforming games that have such beefy of demos very often. It is a very generous thing, and definitely check it out as a nice slice of the game. So good job there, Patrick. I already talked about F-Zero 99, which I've been playing a good bit. So lastly, I do want to just quickly shout out this game that I'll talk about hopefully more soon called Psilocybil. And it's kind of like a play on psilocybin. You play as a mushroom person, and it's like a very low-fi 3D rendered game that is incredibly hard. It plays a lot like Crash Bandicoot. So it is very much in the style of early, super fucking difficult PlayStation 1 platformers, right? And it doesn't pull any punches. This is one where I die constantly, but then you finally beat it and then you feel amazing. It's one of those games, right? But I think right now it's on a launch discount of like $7 or something. This is a really awesome game. It almost passed me by. I saw it once and I was like, oh, great. I got to pick that up. I'm really enjoying it. But that's what I've been playing. What about you, Jordan?
Man, so before I went to PoloCon, I was really determined to finish the Plucky Squire, so I plowed through that. Man, incredible game. Loved it.
Cool.
There's a really interesting turn towards the end in the last couple chapters that I really particularly enjoyed. But man, Plucky Squire, if you see it, if you're any at all interested, pick it up. It is super charming, really cool transfer of 3D to 2D effect. Art's incredible. Just can't recommend that game enough. After that, I was like, you know what? I'll do myself the joy of starting a new game. So I started Neon White, which is a game that's been on my list since it came out. Since before it came out, I've been meaning to play this game. I've listened to the soundtrack probably 20 times. And I've never played the game. So now I'm finally getting into the game. And man, that soundtrack is just incredible for the game style. If you're not familiar with Neon White, it's like a first-person platformer. We talked about it a couple weeks ago as well. That's also what inspired me to start it finally. But yeah, you're just running through levels and just trying to get to the end as fast as possible. And you get cards along the way that are either guns or parkour moves. And just it feels so good to play. And then the way I've been playing it is I'm going for everybody on my friends list time, and I'm trying to get the top time out of anyone on my friends list on every level before I move on to the next one.
That's crazy.
Not a great way to play the game.
Yeah, it's got to be damaging for your mental health, my guy.
There's only been one so far that I was like, I'm skipping. I have no idea how they got this fast, but most of them I figured it out pretty quickly, and it didn't really take me as long as I thought it would. But I'm also still only in just beat the first chapter, so that's the easiest of all of the levels. So, and then other than that, I started picked up Star Ocean, the second story R. I had played a good chunk of it on a plane ride, and I was like getting really into the systems. And then I stepped away for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then when I came back, I was like, I have no idea what's going on. There are so many things to do in this game. There is the menu so long. There's all these different abilities that either craft certain items or craft portraits of your characters to give you a stat bonus. Just so many min-max things that I was like, I really have no idea what's going on. I totally forgot that you could do private actions or personal actions or something like that. And you walk around as a solo character and you have all these interactions that don't happen any other way. That's like a whole mode you have to switch into. So anyway, I went back and I kind of backtracked and did all the side quest stuff. And I'm finally moving forward in the story. So because of that, I haven't moved super far in the story, but I'm actually like really getting into it. It's starting to really like click, and I just needed to be a little bit more patient with like as the game was unfolding and telling me how to play everything. But it's like, I'm 15 hours into the game and I'm still unlocking new things to do. So really beefy game for an RPG that I hear is like not super long. I hear it's like 30 to 40 hours, which in RPG terms, short. But anyway, still really enjoying that and like actually really getting into the story now. But that's about it. Steven, what have you been playing?
Yeah, I've been super obsessed with Marvel's Midnight Suns, which I know came out a while ago, but I'm just now getting to it. And if anyone doesn't know, it's basically it's by the Firaxis developers, so people who did like XCOM and such. So it's like a light strategy game, but they combine it with deck building and then also Marvel characters. And it's just so satisfying. I'm a big deck builder game fan, but also they have like kind of like a Persona-esque system, like Persona Light, where you have like relationships that you build with each of the characters. There's like this whole routine that you do like every day, that you do certain things every day. Like, so you wake up and then you do your little rounds of like, you go talk to your people, and then you go upgrade your stuff, and then you go train. And then like, so it's one of those things that like just tickles my brain in such a good way, where it's like, I feel like I'm in this routine. I know what I'm doing every day. I'm building up these relationships with characters. And then, just the gameplay is really fun too, where it's like combining strategy, kind of XCOM style movements of characters, and abilities, but having that in like a card deck building aesthetic type thing. It's really fun. The voice acting is great. They brought back a lot of like voice actors who did these characters before, like Spider-Man and Wolverine and Storm, and a bunch of really fun Marvel characters. It's really well written. It's probably one of the most fun Marvel things I've seen in a while. Like, I fell off the Marvel train a while back, and this is like one of the first things in a while that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Like, just the way they interact together. I don't know. It's a great game. And I've kind of like gone even deeper into it now that I have my Steam Deck, because now I can stream my Xbox to my deck, and which is like the ultimate thing for me, because usually I'm like a couch gamer. I love my like big screen experience with like surround sound and all that stuff, but like with a game like this, you don't really like need that experience, so it's perfect for on the go. And it's like a bummer because there used to be a Switch port planned, I believe, but it was canceled, which sucks because it's a great mobile experience. It's pick up and play, and like I said, you have like these days where you could just play a day of the gameplay and then kind of put it down. So it's great on the Steam Deck.
I think you'll be seeing a lot of those ports coming out for the next system. I think they're sitting done, and they all thought it was going to be out by this point, and it didn't. Yeah,
that'd be cool for sure. But yeah, other than that, I've like I mentioned earlier, I got a Steam Deck recently, so I've been like waiting to get one for a long time. Just didn't really feel like I needed one because I don't play a lot of PC stuff, just because I don't like being on my computer after being on it all day. I like couch gaming preferably. But yeah, what sold me was just realizing I could stream my Xbox and my PlayStation to it, which has unlocked a whole new kind of realm of games for me. Games that I don't have to play like on a big screen, that I can now play mobile. And just having that ability is super fun. Of course, getting into like emulation stuff for the first time. I've been getting into the Lord of the Rings 2 Towers, the video game.
For PlayStation 2?
Yeah,
so freaking good.
Let's go. That game rules.
It's like so good.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. And like, that was a game I played. I actually played it on the GameCube back in the day. I was like super into it as a kid. So now combining that with like the retro achievements integration is, it's like my perfect dopamine. It's like replaying these old games, but now I can like build up this like achievement stuff. It's so great. I love it.
Very nice. That is going to be it then for our episode on the future of NSO. Thank you so much, Stephen, for coming and talking with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you to milkyway.co for doing our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. Thanks to all of our patrons on Patreon. If you're looking for me, Patrick, you can find me as PDYX.
You can find me on the internet at Bordan.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Stephen? Where can people find you online?
You can find me under the tag Sworskinator.
There you go. Check them out. And make sure you go check out Tomb Raider this Thursday as well. Just to quickly blow a little bit of smoke up your butt here, Stephen. Stephen's one of the best compositors in the entire business. I think Tomb Raider is a beautiful looking show. And honestly, some of the best looking Western animation we've seen in a really long time, because a lot of the amazing post-processing that Stephen has been doing on the show. And you lead an incredible team. And you should be very proud. Everybody go check out Tomb Raider when it drops this Thursday on Netflix. Borrow your borrow your dad's Netflix account if you have to. Just get this thing streaming as much as you can. You gotta message him for a code, but he'll give it to you. Your dad loves you, right? Anyway, if you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We have a website, switchheadz.com, and we also have a Patreon, a Discord, and a Facebook group. We're going to have links to all three of those in the description of this episode. Whether you're watching it on YouTube or you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review or a like and a subscribe, as well as joining us over on the Discord, because we have such a wonderful community. We'd love to have you join over there too. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much again, Stephen. We'll be back next week with another banger of an episode. But until then, you guys know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Free Palestine. We love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.